They say we've never been more connected. Millions of followers, endless messages, constant notifications, and yet we've never felt more alone. Have you ever wondered why that is? What if I told you that this feeling isn't an accident? What if your loneliness isn't just the side effect of modern life, but the very product of its design? What if it's not a bug, but a business model that depends on you craving connection? Because somewhere along the line, human connection stopped being something sacred and started being something that's sold. Every scroll, every light, every missed call creates this tiny, familiar ache inside, and that ache has value. The market saw something priceless here, fundamental human need to be seen, and figured out how to monetize it. Think about it. Social platforms were never really built to truly connect us. They were engineered to keep us almost asterisk connected. Just enough to feel a spark of life, but never enough to feel genuinely fulfilled. It's a design so clever, so subtle, that most of us never even notice we're being harvested. Not for our money, but for our attention, the most valuable resource of the 21st century. And here's the catch. The more isolated you feel, the more predictable your behavior becomes. Because loneliness is an incredibly powerful motivator. And believe me, marketers know this better than anyone. They sell us quick fixes of dopamine, love in a series of swipes, friendship counted in followers, and comfort delivered in a subscription box. But every single one of those fixes fades faster than the last. Why? Because the goal was never to heal your loneliness. It was to feed it. You see, the lonelier you are, the more you'll search for relief. The more you search, the more data you leave behind. And the more data you leave, the easier it is for algorithms to sell you another escape, another solution that conveniently never solves the actual problem. They've managed to turn our emotions into an economy. There's profit in our pain, revenue in our rejection, and financial growth in every empty moment we desperately try to fill. And this loneliness industry isn't just social media, it's the food delivery you order at 1 a.m. because cooking for one just feels too heavy. It's the comfort shows that autoplay all night because the silence feels way too real. It's influencers selling a fantasy of connection through a screen for a price. Even the things that promise to fix loneliness therapy apps, meditation subscriptions, self-help courses are often part of the very same machine, because the longer you're searching for a solution, the longer you're spending. Back in the 1950s, the average American had 3 close friends they could confide in. Today, a shocking number of people say they have none, but companies didn't mourn this loss of community. In a way, they celebrated it. Because isolation creates dependency, and dependency ... well, that creates profit. Every single year, billions of dollars are made from the ache of modern solitude. From dating app renewals to comfort food branding, from luxury wellness retreats to algorithmic advertising that studies your emotional triggers better than your closest friend ever could. But it wasn't always like this. Once upon a time, connection was built differently. It was built through community. Share meals, physical presence, time. Then came the digital shift slow, seductive and irreversible. Technology didn't just reshape how we talk to each other, it completely reprogrammed how we feel. Now, connection arrives with a notification. Friendship is filtered through metrics and analytics, and love, arguably the purest human instinct, has become a gamified experience. Each tap, each swipe, releases a cocktail of chemicals in your brain: dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. These are the same neurotransmitters targeted by casinos and addictive substances. The highs are incredibly short. The withdrawals are long and painful. This isn't communication anymore. It's conditioning. The business of loneliness thrives on this endless loop. Isolation, stimulation, exhaustion, and then repeat. And the more people who fall into this cycle, the richer and more powerful the system grows. We've built an entire empire of emotional dependency, one where silence is scary, stillness feels foreign, and being alone feels like a personal failure. You're expected to stay online, stay reachable, stay connected, but behind every notification is an algorithm quietly whispering, don't look away, don't disconnect. Don't think for yourself, because the moment you disconnect, you start to see the pattern, and that's dangerous for their bottom line. The truth is, Loneliness is not a glitch of modern life. It's a feature. It's a deliberate design choice, perfected by industries that understand our deep human need for belonging, and they use it to keep us compliant, consuming, and constantly craving more. They turned one of our deepest vulnerabilities into a marketplace. And honestly, we never really stood a chance because the product they're selling isn't real connection. It's the illusion of it. So tonight, when your phone buzzes, when you find yourself scrolling through a feed that feels both empty and addictive, ask yourself this: are you truly connecting, or are you just consuming an idea of connection that someone else built for profit? Because the most valuable resource in this new world isn't gold or oil or even data. It's you, your time, your loneliness, your deep-seated longing. And somewhere in a boardroom full of charts and metrics, someone is celebrating every single second that you feel unseen. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content that questions the world around us. Stay curious. If you could measure human emotion in dollars, how much do you think loneliness would be worth? Not in tears, not in pain, but in pure market value. Because somewhere in the last 3 decades, the human heart was converted into a data point. Every feeling, every craving, every moment of emptiness became a line in a spreadsheet tracked, predicted, and sold. At first, it started innocently. Companies wanted to understand consumers better, but the deeper they studied, the more they realized something powerful: emotion is predictable. And predictability means control. So they built what we now call emotional capitalism, a system that thrives not on what you think, but on what you feel. Every ad, every notification, every recommended for you moment is designed to tug on invisible strings buried deep in your brain. They know when you're lonely, they know when you're anxious, and they know exactly what to show you next. It's called psychographic profiling. Your phone, your searches, your late night clicks, they all tell a story. You don't even need to type, "I feel lonely." The system already knows. It watches the time you open your apps, how long you pause on a post, what kind of faces you respond to, and how your heart rate changes through your watch. You're not just browsing, you're confessing. And that confession is being converted into currency. These emotional patterns are sold like stocks. Every time you feel low, someone profits. Every moment of vulnerability is a marketing opportunity waiting to be exploited. And that's the hidden genius. They don't need to sell you happiness anymore. They just need to sell you the idea that you're one purchase away from it. The psychology runs deep. Modern marketing doesn't target logic. It bypasses it. Instead, it speaks the ancient language of the brain reward and relief. The human mind, after all, evolved to seek connection, safety, and belonging. But in the digital age, those instincts have been hijacked. The system doesn't just respond to your needs, it creates them. Each image, each sound is engineered to make you feel incomplete just enough to take action. They want you restless. They want you reaching, they want you needing the next fix, the next scroll, the next purchase, the next like. And so the loneliness industry turned into a $1 trillion machine powered by your own emotional cycles. Even the platforms we trust, most of the ones that promise to connect the world, rely on the opposite, because true connection is stable. And stability doesn't sell. You don't check your phone when you're fulfilled. You check it when you feel a gap. That gap, that microsecond of emptiness, is where they live. Your attention span is their battlefield. And loneliness, that's their nuclear weapon. It's no accident that social platforms release new features right after major life events. It's not random that your feed fills with romantic ads around Valentine's Day, or find your tribe content during the holidays. It's the emotional economy and action-calibrated, optimized, relentless. But it goes deeper than ads. Entire industries have learned to weaponize your emotional rhythm. Music algorithms detect when you're sad. Food delivery apps notice when you're isolated. Even streaming platforms time their recommendations to your loneliness curve. It's real, measured by global data showing when people feel most alone. They studied not just your behavior, but your biology, the peaks and troughs of dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol. They don't guess, they model. And once they understand your pattern, they don't need to convince you anymore. They simply trigger the next craving. You become both the customer and the commodity. Think about it. When you buy comfort food, when you stream another sad playlist, when you scroll through strangers' lives, you're not buying a product, You're renting a feeling, and every feeling rented is another line of profit. This is why the world keeps you emotionally exhausted, why your news feed alternates between outrage and desire, why your favorite platforms are never quite peaceful, never truly fulfilling. Because peace doesn't pay, need does. In the old world, debt was financial. You borrowed money, you paid it back. But in the new world, debt is emotional. You borrow feelings, dopamine validation, connection from systems that never stop charging interest. And no matter how much you consume, you never feel full. That's the trap. The modern machine doesn't drain your wallet. First, it drains your will. And once your emotions are predictable, your decisions are programmable. So when people say data is the new oil, they're wrong. It's not data that drives this world. It's emotion mined, refined, and sold in endless loops of digital desire. Your loneliness isn't invisible anymore. It's an asset traded across servers, analyzed by AIs, and priced by algorithms. And the longer you stay connected to the system built to exploit it, the further you drift from the connection you were searching for in the first place. But what if you stopped feeding it? What if, for a moment, you let silence win? Would the system still have power, or would it start to crumble somewhere behind the glowing screens, the slick logos, and the bright, inviting colors? There are architects, but they don't build towers or bridges. They're minds that build behavior. They don't just design products, they design desire. And the blueprint for that desire, it was drawn decades ago, long before any of us were born. Think back to the Mad Men, year-old black and white images of AD agencies. Smoky offices, men in sharp suits with whiskey glasses, and giant billboards being painted by hand. Long before smartphones and algorithms, these companies learned something powerful, and frankly, a little dangerous. The human mind could be trained like a muscle. If you hit the right nerve enough times, you could literally reshape people's instincts. Edouard Gibbard-Nice, the nephew of Sigmund Freud and the father of modern propaganda, called it the engineering of consent. He was one of the first to truly understand that logic doesn't sell. Emotion does, and corporations took that incredible insight and turned it into a science. By the time the 1950s rolled around, America wasn't just selling products anymore, it was selling identities. Cars became a symbol of freedom. Cigarettes became a sign of confidence and cool. Getting into debt through credit became a marker of status. And every generation since has been subtly trained not to question this system, but to simply upgrade their position within it. Behind every single brand campaign, every shiny ad you see, there's a team of psychologists dissecting the human experience. They're asking questions like, what makes people feel powerful? What makes them feel left out? What primal need do they have to belong? And then, once they find the answer, that raw emotion is packaged and turned into a product. The hard truth is that corporations don't really sell things anymore. They sell feelings wrapped in a package of convenience. You don't buy a new phone, you buy a sense of belonging to a tribe. You don't buy new clothes, you buy the confidence you hope they'll give you. You don't buy fast food, you buy a moment of comfort delivered in a disposable box. And the more people consumed, the more they needed to consume again. Why? Because nothing built on an illusion can ever truly satisfy a real human need. The architects of this system understood something primal about us. The human brain is fundamentally so they've built a machine of infinite, unsatisfying rewards. And that's where Silicon Valley entered the picture. They took the old school psychology of advertising and supercharged it with real-time behavioral data. Now, instead of guessing what you want, they know every scroll, every swipe, every click. You make feeds, they're models. They can predict when you'll get bored and stop what you'll crave next. And exactly when you'll feel just lonely or restless enough to come back for another hit. This isn't just marketing anymore. This is conditioning. And it's absolutely everywhere, from the layout of your favorite apps to the specific colors of the notifications that pop up to the precise timing of a flash sale. Even the sound effects are meticulously studied. Did you know they discovered that high-frequency tones, like that little ding, trigger a dopamine release faster than low ones? That's why every notification feels like a tiny micro-hit of pleasure. You think you're in control. You think you're making a choice But every move you make has already been A/B tested on millions of people before you. The architects of this world aren't mustache-twirling villains from a movie. They're just psychologists, engineers, and marketing analysts, working within systems that reward one thing above all else: your attention. They're not actively trying to ruin the world. They're just following the incentives they've been given. But the result is the same a culture addicted to wanting, and this is where the story gets even darker. Once companies realized they could predict our attention, they figured out they could extend our dependency. Enter the subscription model. Once upon a time, you owned what you bought. A book, a record, a movie. It was yours. Now, you rent your happiness on a monthly basis. The music you listen to, the movies you watch, even the software you use for your own creativity, all exist behind paywalls, subscriptions, and microtransactions. This isn't about convenience. It's about containment. They don't want you to stop buying. They want you to forget what ownership even feels like. The end goal isn't just to sell you something. It's to make sure you feel like you can't live without them. And yet, the system still isn't satisfied. It always wants more. So now, the cutting edge is neurofeedback, studying how the human brain reacts to digital experiences in real time. In the near future, the goal won't be to just predict your emotions. It will be to edit them. Believe it or not, they've already started. Some platforms have experimented with creating synthetic emotions through algorithms engineering artificial moments of happiness in users right after they see an ad, creating micro moments of joy that are designed to keep people hooked for longer sessions. You're not just being sold to anymore. You are being trained. Every tap teaches the system how to keep you loyal. Every pause, every hesitation tells it what to change next. You have become a co-designer in your own dependency, but there's a moment to quiet, a fragile one when the spell can break. It's the moment you see the loop for what it really is. It's when you finally realize that architects never built this world for your happiness. They built it for your predictability, because in the 21st century, predictability is the most profitable product in history. The irony is almost poetic. The very same technology that promised to connect us and set us free has become the beautiful cage we decorate ourselves. We laugh, we scroll, we post, we consume all while being watched and studied by invisible architects who are already refining the next update to our dependency. And every time we fall for it, the system just smiles. Welcome to the architecture of desire. Stay curious. They told us freedom meant choice. The right to choose where to live, what to buy, how to spend our time. It sounded noble, even empowering. But what if choice wasn't freedom? What if it was the illusion that replaced it? In the modern world, we have more choices than any generation before us. And yet, we've never felt more trapped. We scroll endlessly through options, deals, upgrades, and decisions. All of them promise happiness. All of them feed the same machine. Because in this system, choice isn't about liberation. It's about direction. And every direction leads to the same destination: consumption. The truth they never say aloud is that freedom, in its original form, was about independence. It meant self-reliance, creativity, the ability to say no. But the architects of modern capitalism couldn't profit from that kind of freedom. So they redefined it. They made you believe that freedom was the ability to pick between 10 brands of the same product. That self-expression could be achieved through logos and labels. That your individuality could be bought, packaged, and delivered to your doorstep in 2 days or less. But if everyone is buying individuality from the same system, how individual are we, really? That's the paradox. The more choices we get, the less control we actually have. Because the system doesn't care which option you choose, only that you keep choosing. Every swipe, every click, every purchase feeds the same invisible engine. The consumer's cage isn't made of walls. It's made of options. The illusion of freedom works because it feels empowering. You're not being forced to buy. You're not trapped in debt. You're managing it. You're not being manipulated. You're rewarding yourself. The language of modern marketing is genius. It wraps captivity in the vocabulary of empowerment because you deserve it. Treat yourself. Upgrade your life. Each phrase whispers the same lie. The happiness is just one purchase away. And when that happiness fades, the next product is ready to take its place. You see, the machine doesn't sell satisfaction. It sells relief from dissatisfaction. And that's an infinite market. In the background, financial systems make sure this loop never breaks. Credit cards, loans, installment plans all perfectly synchronized to keep the illusion alive. Debt used to be a sign of failure. Now, it's a lifestyle. You're not told to save, you're told to spend responsibly. You're not told to pause, you're told to upgrade. And as long as you're chasing the next thing, the system keeps spinning. The brilliance of this design is its invisibility. Nobody forces you into the cage. You walk into it yourself, smiling, because they made it look like a playground. The shopping malls became cathedrals of desire. Online stores became altars of convenience. And the algorithm became your priest, whispering exactly what to want next. But here's the real trick. The system needs you to believe you're free, because the moment you realize you're not, its power collapses. That's why advertisements now celebrate authenticity. They know you're tired of fake perfection, so they sell imperfection instead. They sell rebellion, counterculture, even anti-consumer. You can now buy minimalism at the mall. You can purchase freedom on a payment plan. You can follow influencers teaching simplicity through sponsored deals. Rebellion itself has become a product. They've studied every escape route and built another store at the end of it. So even when you think you're breaking free, you're still inside the maze, because the maze doesn't end where the walls stop. It ends where your attention does, and attention is the new currency of control. The modern economy doesn't just trade in money, it trades in focus. The longer you look, the deeper you fall. They've built a world where silence feels uncomfortable and stillness feels wrong, where people equate their worth to their possessions and their joy to their notifications. It's not that we lost our freedom, it's that we traded it. We exchanged independence for convenience, reflection for distraction, and truth for the next dopamine hit. But here, that's the haunting question. If every part of your environment is designed to make you consume, how do you know which thoughts are yours? Maybe true freedom isn't about choice anymore. Maybe it's about stillness, the one thing they can't sell you, because silence doesn't generate revenue, and contentment can't be monetized. If this resonated with you, let me know your thoughts in the comments. They say happiness is priceless, but in our modern world, it seems to have a price tag. And the most profitable part, we keep paying it over and over again. The system figured something out a long time ago. Happiness isn't a destination, it's a loop, a cycle of anticipation, reward, and emptiness. And the faster that cycle spins, the more money it makes. Once upon a time, happiness was simpler. It was about love, family, purpose, and community. But simplicity isn't scalable. You can't mass produce meaning. So the architects of desire built something new, synthetic happiness, happiness that comes in bright colors, in notifications, in unboxing videos. These moments are so brief they vanish the second they're felt, leaving behind just enough emptiness to make you want to start the chase all over again. This isn't a glitch, it's by design, because happiness that lasts doesn't sell, but happiness that fades, that's a gold mine. The economy needs you to chase, not arrive, to seek, not find, because once you find genuine contentment, you stop buying. This is what psychologists now call the hedonic treadmill. The more you consume, the more your expectations rise, leaving you running faster just to feel the same. And that's exactly how emotional debt is born. We usually think of debt as something you owe the bank, but emotional debt is what you owe yourself every time you trade peace for pleasure, every time you confuse comfort with joy. It's that exhaustion after scrolling for hours, the emptiness after a shopping spree or a binge-watching session, that quiet, nagging ache that whispers, "Why do I still feel the same?" That's not you failing. That's the system working perfectly. Because while you're busy chasing happiness, you're not noticing the real transaction taking place. You're trading your time, your focus, your mental energy. You're paying for temporary highs with a permanent sense of fatigue. Every advertisement sells the illusion of better. A better you, a better life, a better future if you just buy this one more thing. But better is a moving target, and chasing it is what keeps the wheel spinning. In ancient times, this might have been called worship. Today, we call it consumer confidence. We've built an entire civilization powered, not by oil, but by insecurity. The moment people start feeling genuinely content, the system starts to suffocate. Think about it. Entire industries, beauty, fitness, fashion, tech all depend on your dissatisfaction. Their survival relies on planting one core belief in your mind that you are not enough as you are. And so marketing has become our modern mythology. Instead of gods, we have influencers. Instead of temples, we have shopping malls. And instead of prayers, we have purchases. But here's the paradox. The more we consume to feel happy, the less happy we actually become. Because true happiness can't coexist with dependency. The architects of this system knew that they built products designed to degrade emotionally, not just physically. Phones that make you feel outdated, clothes that make you feel behind the trend, content that constantly reminds you of what you don't have. It's not about selling objects. It's about selling identity maintenance. They don't want you to feel poor. They want you to feel asterisk, almost asterisk rich, because almost is the perfect emotional hook to keep you striving. And then there's the final twist. The debt isn't a side effect. It's the main product. Every emotional void created by marketing becomes a financial opportunity. Credit cards, buy now, pay later services, payday loans, they all thrive on the same rhythm: instant pleasure, delayed pain. We don't just spend money anymore. We spend tomorrow's peace of mind. And in that delay, the system wins. You stay trapped between desire and guilt, essentially buying your freedom with chains. But this emotional debt isn't just financial. It's psychological. Every time we trade our authentic selves for an image, or silence for noise, we lose a small piece of who we are. You can see it in the burnout generation, people who have everything except rest. You see it in the endless scrolling, searching for connection in a system built to fragment it. You see it in those quiet moments when happiness feels more like a distant memory than a present reality. And yet, we keep chasing, we keep running on that treadmill because the system taught us that stillness means failure. That if we're not constantly improving, upgrading, and acquiring, we're falling behind. But maybe happiness was never meant to be a chase. Maybe it was always in the space between the moments, the silence between notifications. The truth is, the most radical act in a world addicted to consumption is to simply stop needing more. Not because ambition is wrong, but because contentment doesn't sell. And if you ever wonder why happiness feels so expensive, it's because it's the one thing the system can't match. Somewhere deep inside the algorithms and the advertisements, there's a quiet message you were never meant to hear. You are already enough. But the louder the world gets, the harder that truth is to find. And until you do, the system keeps winning. Somewhere between the noise and the numbness, between ambition and exhaustion, something begins to whisper. It isn't loud. It doesn't sell. It doesn't scream for your attention. It's just truth. And for most of us, truth arrives quietly after the dopamine wears off, after the applause fades, after the screen goes dark. You start to realize that maybe the dream we were all sold wasn't a dream at all. Maybe it was a script written by systems that needed you to play a role. The worker, the consumer, the believer. And for decades, we all did. We ran, we built, we bought, we broke chasing a promise that was never ours to keep. But every system built on illusion has an expiration date. And this one is showing cracks. A new generation is beginning to see through the glass. They're not just questioning success, they're redefining it. They're not just rejecting the system, they're awaking from it. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to thinking happiness lives in a shopping cart. You can't go back to believing self-worth comes with a software update. The awakening begins when you stop asking, how do I win? And start asking, why am I even playing this game? That's when the system loses its control, not through rebellion, but through awareness. Because awareness starves the machine. It cuts off its most precious fuel, your attention. Every scroll, every click, every impulsive thought that essie your energy. And your energy, when you reclaim it, becomes freedom. The truth is, The system cannot survive genuine self-awareness. It can manipulate ignorance, it can monetize distraction, but it can't sell you enlightenment. When you start seeing advertisements as spells, brands as belief systems, and endless comfort as a form of control, illusion begins to crack. And through that crack, the real world seeps in. Not the digital one, not the corporate one, the human one. The smell of rain on concrete, the silence after a shared laugh, the weight of a hug that doesn't need words. These are the currencies that can't be controlled, measured, or monetized. And yet, they're the only ones that make us feel truly alive. For so long, we've been told the good life is out there somewhere, someday, after you achieve success. But what if the good life was here all along, hidden beneath everything they told us to chase? What if freedom isn't about escaping the system, but about seeing right through it? The old dream promised comfort, control, and certainty. But maybe real life is meant to be messy. Maybe it's supposed to be uncertain because uncertainty is where freedom lives. Every ad, every algorithm, every illusion, it's all designed to keep you predictable, but your unpredictability is your power. When you stop reacting and start reflecting, you reclaim your own story. The moment you truly pulls the loop brakes, you step off the treadmill, and the machine starts to starve. That's the secret no one tells you. Freedom doesn't begin when the system changes. It begins when you do. The world won't collapse when you disconnect. But the illusion will... You'll start to see how silence feels louder than noise, how stillness feels more alive than constant motion, and how peace, the kind you can't post or package, might just be the most radical rebellion left. Because when enough people wake up, the system doesn't just lose profit, it loses its power. You see, revolutions used to be fought with weapons. Now, they're fought with awareness, and awareness is contagious. One person stops chasing, another starts asking questions, and slowly, the illusion begins to fracture, not with fire, but with light. Maybe the real dream was never about having more. Maybe it was about being awake enough to see what we already have. The system can sell us everything except presence. It can rent us endless distractions, but it can never give us fulfillment. And once you realize that, the loop breaks not with a loud noise, but with quiet understanding. So ask yourself, what happens when the world's most profitable illusion loses its believers? What happens when we stop buying the idea that happiness has a barcode? That is where our next story begins. Because maybe the ultimate dream isn't about waking up rich, but finally waking up pedal.